Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Thursday or Friday edition, depending on when you're listening. I know I was recording a little later than I planned to tonight here at the ETV Community Media Center. Had a wonderful author talk as well as some people come in. But nonetheless, got to get this show in because we have World Series baseball tonight if you're listening on Friday, tomorrow if you are listening when this uploads. Siri came in clutch with the coin toss. Blue Jays in 7. My head was telling me Blue Jays. My heart was telling me Mariners. The joy of victory, the agony of defeat. What a fantastic series of baseball. That's, as a neutral fan, that's all you hope for. And to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who has dual citizenship as a Canadian, but after some discourse, inked a deal to be the face of the Blue Jays, to be a lifetime Blue Jay, to be someone who gets paid nearly $500 million. For him to have the postseason he's had is absolutely unbelievable. I am so stoked for him personally, and he's hitting 442, 510, 930, 19 for 43 with 6 home runs and 12 RBIs. His 1440 OPS is the 6th highest ever in a single postseason, minimum 30 plate appearances. He's absolutely raking. He is putting himself back in that category that he did back in 2021, where he was pushing to be a top 5 player in the sport. He is making that claim right now. He is being someone who's worth every dollar, someone who has sent the Blue Jays to their first World Series since 1993. And he did not do it alone. I talked about George Springer not having a great DS against the Yankees. He was playing very well, but that home run down to in the 7th inning of a game 7, to just be able to turn his hands on that inside fastball, to get it out of there, to swing the probability into the Blue Jays' favor and Hoffman to come in and shut the door. George Springer is one of the greatest postseason contributors this game has ever seen. And as someone who's been a big fan of George Springer's whole career, the UConn ties, seeing him have that moment in this magical season for the Blue Jays where they go from worst to first, they end up making the ALCS, and everybody in the lineup is hitting but George Springer, but this guy who's going to win Comeback Player of the Year, this guy who's going to get some down ballot MVP votes, this guy who is one of the greatest modern postseason hitters we've seen. He has his maybe career-defining moment, hitting that home run to help send the Blue Jays to their first World Series in 32 years. On the Mariners side, I understand it's completely depressing. My heart was pulling for them to go to their first World Series ever. There was a lot about Cal Raleig's magical season that I was a big fan of. He hit 5 home runs this postseason, finished with 65 home runs, which is the most by an American League player in a single year between regular season and postseason combined. It was also only the second catcher ever to have 5 home runs in a playoff run, and he didn't even play in a World Series or a wild card round. He hit incredibly well. He caught every single game the Mariners had, including that 15-inning DS game against the Tigers. Switch hitting, legendary season. Cal Raleigh should get his flowers. He should have a real shot to win this MVP. And I hope the writers gave him a shot to win it. I hope it's not one-sided either way between him and Judge. Cal Raleigh and the Mariners had a fantastic run. I think that they were pushing a little bit hard after that Springer swing. The at-bats were not what they needed to be. They had some great moments. The Eugenio Suarez grand slam, if the Mariners ended up going to their first ever World Series, would have made the trade worth it, would have been a huge, huge moment for his career as a slugger and a guy who has not produced well in Seattle, but having that kind of playoff moment was really special to watch. They got fantastic contributions from Jorge Polanco all postseason. There was moments for Randy Arozarena and Julio Rodriguez, and of course Josh Naylor, who kind of became that number two guy behind Raleigh in the lineup, who the Blue Jays had to fear and work around in some cases. Uh, Mariners fans should be disappointed, but they should also be very proud and will have tons of memories from this 2025 season to hold on to. But the Blue Jays, they were just relentless. They hit top to bottom. Their pitching was fantastic. They got Max Scherzer, like who I also talked about him being on the roster and making an impact. He's a big game pitcher, and he stood up to that test. The Blue Jays are a really great organization, and I'm happy for their fans who have been waiting not quite as long as the Mariners, but waiting a long time to have a pennant. But there was also an NLCS. I know people kind of forgot about it because it only went 4 games. The Dodgers swept the Brewers, which was not what I was expecting. I was expecting the Dodgers to win, but I was expecting the Brewers to put up a fight. The Brewers hit 118 in the series, which is the lowest team batting average ever in a playoff round, minimum 5 games. And they just looked lifeless, not just in the field and on the base paths and in the batter's box, but with the decisions, the lineups, the starting pitching situation, not starting regular guys, trying to bullpen game your way to the World Series against the Dodgers when your starting pitching had been really good all year. I understand Woodruff missed the postseason, and that was a big deal, but you had other starters that had given you quality innings and could have really helped your bullpen stay fresh and do what was necessary to make this a series with the Dodgers. But it was just one of the least competitive, least interesting playoff matchups I've seen in a long time, which is really disappointing because the Brewers, like I said, they've been kings of the Central. They had the best record in baseball. They're a good team. They showed fight against the Cubs in the DS, and to just respond this lifeless was really disappointing. But I don't want to just talk about the Brewers' approach because part of that was the greatness on the other side. It was the Dodgers, and while they had a fantastic hitting performance in the final game, the real story of the series for the Dodgers was the starting pitching. Blake Snell threw a gem in game 1, 10 strikeouts, 8 innings, led the road to Sasaki. Game 2, Yoshinobu Yamamoto threw a complete game, 1 run. He hit off a leadoff home run and then was shut out the rest of the way, 8 strikeouts. Tyler Glasnow, 5 2/3, 7 strikeouts, and then Shohei Ohtani, 6 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts. Just pure dominance from that starting rotation. The bullpen didn't have to be worked super hard. And that rotation is healthy and it is nasty. I remember last year I was just talking about the Dodgers. I'm a little worried about the rotation. Like Yamamoto's pretty good. Flaherty has that spunk, and Buehler is giving you enough to win, but it's not a rotation that scares you. This is a rotation that's to scare opponents, and they showed you exactly why. They have great strikeout stuff. They limit damage. They limit runs, and it was just truly unbelievable to watch those pitching performances. Yoshinobu Yamamoto threw more innings than Brewers starting pitchers did the entire series with his complete game shutout. In the final game, Shohei Ohtani had his career game, and I'm going to say so far. A lot of people are talking about this is the greatest playoff game of all time. This is Shohei's defining moment. It's what everyone wanted to see. And what we missed out on last year is Shohei Ohtani pitching a gem on the mound and dominating in the batter's box. 3 home runs to go along with that 6 scoreless innings and 10 Ks. And the 3 home runs were just absolutely glorious. He was just locked in after not being that impressive as a hitter during the DS or the previous 3 games of the CS, for him to come out there and have those swings and have that game to punch the Dodgers ticket to the World Series for the second year in a row, he is putting himself in the greatest of all time conversation. I know some people already had him there. To me, he had to pitch at a high level for a couple more years and have these moments in the postseason as a pitcher and a hitter. He's a fantastic hitter, but is his hitting so great that that makes him a greatest of all time player? No, the unicorn, the reason why Shohei Ohtani is the player you're going to tell your grandkids that you got to watch is the fact that he pitches as a front end starter to go along with fantastic MVP level hitting at the dish. Truly unreal game. I know I'm like the last person in the baseball world to talk about it, just with my recording schedule, but I was in awe. It was a game that I did not get to watch live. I just got updates on my phone while we were having an event here at the studio. But watching, I went and did something I never do outside of Red Sox championship clinchers. I went back and watched the entire game. I watched every inning he threw. I watched every at bat. I went back and I wanted to take in that whole performance, not just the highlights, not just the graphics. I wanted to watch that game, even though I knew what was going to happen, even though I knew the result. I went back and watched the game, recorded. That's how special that performance was. And we talked about how lifeless the Brewers looked. The Dodgers, when they clinched, looked pretty lifeless too. They did not look very excited to be going to the World Series. And I think this group has such high standards for itself that that could be their only downfall, is that they're like, job's not finished. Like, it's World Series or bust. The DS doesn't matter. The CS doesn't matter. Spanking the Reds in the wild card doesn't matter. And I hope that's not the case, because I am a fan of greatness. And to see a lineup with Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman at the top of it, fantastic secondary pieces in Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman, Kike Hernandez, Max Muncy. This team has a total chance to be a dynasty. And to me, a dynasty is winning 3 championships in a 5-year window. And they totally have the opportunity to go back-to-back for the first time since the Yankees in the late 90s, early 2000s. And they certainly have a chance to win 3 in a row, or at least 3 of the next 5, with the core that they have locked up for as long as they do, especially if the pitching can be nearly as great as it historically was against the Brewers in that series. But that brings you to the Fall Classic. The World Series, it is a matchup that a lot of people are painting as David and Goliath, but not so fast. The Blue Jays had the best record in the American League. The Blue Jays also have home field advantage in this series. The Blue Jays also have the 5th highest payroll in baseball. I know nobody believed in the Blue Jays before the season started outside of Toronto but me, picking them to win the division. This is a legitimate squad, and it is almost all the way healthy. Bo Bichette said in his interview after they clinched that he'll be ready, most likely in a DH role, and adding that bat to a lineup that is just relentless top to bottom, getting contributions from Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas, Adrian Barger, Dalton Varsho, Andres Jimenez, Isaiah Kiner Falefa pitching in. Like, this team, bat to ball skills are fantastic. So no matter how nasty the stuff is, how good the pitchers are on the other side, the Blue Jays are going to put balls in play. You're not going to be able to miss bats at the same rate that you did against the Brewers in this series. This is by no means a cakewalk. I see a lot of people calling for a Dodger sweep. I see a lot of people saying The series will not leave Los Angeles. They will win it in 5. The one thing I can tell you is Toronto, who's throwing 22-year-old Trey Savage, the youngest starter of a game 1 of a World Series in 78 years. They have to win one of those first 2 games at Toronto. You can't go down 0-2 and then expect to win 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles, or be confident in winning 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles. It's very important that the Blue Jays secure one of these home wins. They don't need to win both of them. Both of them would be great, but they need to win at least one of them. They need to sell out for it. This Blue Jays team has the talent to do so. Savage doesn't have a lot of tape on him. He has pitched fantastic at home. His one road start is where he struggled. The Blue Jays, the Great White North, they have came out in droves this playoff series, not just at home, but on the road. I expect it to be a packed house. I expect it to be loud. I expect that environment to be on the Blue Jays side. I expect them to win one of those first 2 games. So those of you calling for a sweep, I don't think it's going to happen. But I think for you to say the Blue Jays are going to win this series, they have to win one of the first 2 games. They cannot go down 0-2. Now, as great as this Blue Jays team matches up with the Dodgers, their bullpen is really good. Their starting rotation is solid. Their lineup puts the bat on the ball and is deeper. If you look at the OPS and batting average leaders this postseason between the 2 teams, you have to scroll down pretty far to get to the only Dodger hitter to hit 300 so far this postseason, Kike Hernandez. OPS, Shohei Ohtani is like 4th or 5th behind a bunch of Blue Jays, including Vladdy, who I told you is having this historic run. The Blue Jays offense is deeper. Even though the names aren't as big and sexy, the Blue Jays are going to make this a real series. It's going to be a real fight. I think this series gets back to Toronto, but I do think the Dodgers win in 6 games. I can personally not bet against greatness. I cannot bet against Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. That starting rotation, not even including Kershaw, which this could be the last we get to see both Kershaw and Scherzer. Get your tissues ready, baseball fans. This Dodgers season has been just as magical. And I know in the 4 instances that 2 teams have matched up in the World Series where one swept and the other series went 7 games, the 7-game winner, the team riding that high in the momentum, and you look at the Dodgers celebration versus the Blue Jays celebration, the Blue Jays seem like more of a team of destiny. I'm still going to ride with the Dodgers. But more than anything, and I talk about this all the time as a neutral baseball fan, I want good baseball. I don't want the Dodgers to go out there and shut down the Blue Jays offense and put up a bunch of runs in the first 2 games and just take the air out of this balloon. I want a great baseball series. Whether it goes 6 games or 7, which I think the series totally has the potential to go 7 games. And when it gets to game 7, anything goes. The Blue Jays can totally win this World Series. I'm just not going to predict them to do so. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., in terms of legacy, has the most to gain in this World Series. Because we talked about it last year with legacy Ohtani versus Judge. Ohtani has that ring. He didn't perform huge in the World Series, and he didn't pitch. So if he can do something that's 60% of what he did in Game 4 of the CS in World Series play, if he can do 4 1/3 shutout innings with 7 Ks and hit 2 home runs in a World Series game, that will still be historic. I'm very, very excited for this series. I'm very, very excited for World Series baseball. I think the 2 best teams are matching up. And get your popcorn ready, folks. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we throw back down the third base line to this day in baseball history. And while there was some pretty important things in the baseball calendar, I think we have to throw it back to 1993. we talked about that was the last time the Blue Jays were in the World Series. Well, on October 23rd, 1993, you might have heard of this guy, Joe Carter, hit a 3-run home run off of Mitch Williams to end the 1993 World Series and etch his name in baseball history. I am extremely sad that I did not realize this, but when you look at that World Series in my head, all I think about is Curt Schilling's most overlooked season, dragging that Phillies team to a World Series. I think of the home run, obviously, with Joe Carter. But Paul Molitor in that World Series, he ended up getting the MVP honors, rightfully so. He was absolutely unbelievable. I don't think people realize Paul Molitor, what he was able to do. His batting average was 500. He was on base 57% of the time. He slugged 1,000. His OPS was 1571. We just talked about Vladdy's 1440. How crazy that is. He stole a base. He had 2 home runs, drove in 8 runs, walked 4 times, only struck out once. 12 hits, 10 runs scored in 24 at-bats. Paul Molitor is one of the most overlooked modern Hall of Famers because he wasn't a great defensive player. I know he played a lot more designated hitter than he did both third and second base in his career, but he still accumulated 75.7 WAR. Like, that's not a terrible defender. That's not a good but not great hitter. Like, he was truly a great hitter. 3,300 hits, a 306 career hitter. And like I said, he stole a base. He scored over 1,700 runs in his career and stole 504 bases. One of the all-time great World Series performances that gets overshadowed because of the first home run to end a World Series since Bill Mazeroski's famous home run in 1960. Joe Carter punched the Blue Jays' last World Series ticket. Who can be the next Blue Jays World Series hero? I guess we'll find out. Before I get out of here, I want to just talk quickly about the manager carousel that has been starting. And we had a few hirings. Skip Schumacher for the Texas Rangers. He threw some shots at the Marlins about the Texas Rangers being an organization that's trying to win, how he's excited to be there. I hope he can help turn them around. He was a manager of the year. He brought the Marlins to a wild card experience, and the Texas Rangers team is already way more talented than the Marlins teams that he coached were. And they're going to add. I don't know what they're going to add, how much money they're going to spend with the lockout looming in the free agent class, but they're going to add to this team. Corey Seager and Marcus Semien getting paid big money in their primes. Wyatt Langford, breakout. They need to build the offense around them because Adolis Garcia has fallen off. Jonah Heim, Nate Lowe, those other ancillary pieces. Young has not been able to stay healthy. Evan Carter has not been able to stay healthy. They need to build around while they're paying these high-end guys in DeGrom, Seager, and Eovaldi, Semien. They need to build around them. And I'm excited to see what Schumacher can do with the group. But the 2 more interesting things were the Angels announced that Kurt Suzuki will be their new manager. This is interesting for 2 reasons. One, it was talked about that Albert Pujols and Torrey Hunter were the 2 favorites. Albert Pujols was out because of money. Torrey Hunter, for whatever reason, they were out on him. And Kurt Suzuki comes out, and they sign him to a 1-year contract, which is very rare to see with first-time managers. Kurt Suzuki seems like a great guy. I've heard nothing but good things. It seems like he got the job because ownership and the front office want a yes man. They want someone that's there for the experience, will not push back with them as much as what they want to do, will take a lower payroll. Albert Pujols, I think the financial dispute was because he is still getting paid by the Angels from his old contract and being an instructor during spring training and stuff and talking to players. So they were saying, well, we're already paying you this, so we can't also pay you this to manage, even though that's extra work on top of what you already agreed to pay him. And now Pujols is interviewing with the Padres and the Orioles and seeing if he can get a job somewhere else. Torrey Hunter, another guy that just seemed really, really likable, great baseball player. I don't know if he was going to be a yes man. Those are both two older baseball guys. Maybe they would have pushed back a little bit on how the Angels want to run things. Kurt Suzuki, I'm happy for him. I'm interested to see how this works out. I have a feeling that a lot of the people that they hire are not going to be in those jobs next year. I think this is going to be kind of a start of a refresh for the Angels. But nonetheless, was an interesting hiring to follow because I don't think Kurt Suzuki was very high on anyone else's list. He's been a special assistant to the GM the last 3 years and helped some catchers in minor leagues, instructor, but never managed or coached at the big league level. Catchers do tend to make good managers. They know how to call a game and see a game, but as we know in today's game, managers don't have as much of that feel and control. It's a lot of analytics and stats. And finally, the Giants made maybe the most crazy hire of them all as they made history. The San Francisco Giants are signing Vitello from Tennessee, Tony Vitello becomes the first manager in baseball history to go straight from college to the pros. And that is shocking to hear as a football fan because you see that happen a lot. If a coach is able to have a pipeline of developing NFL talent and winning games at the college level, they can get a job at the pro level pretty easily. It's never happened in baseball. The crazier thing is with the NIL and the current funding of Major League Baseball versus college baseball, Vitello is actually taking a pay cut to take this job, this 3-year commitment from the Giants to make history. And this will be, I think, the clear thing people point to one way or the other when you discuss the Buster Posey Giants tenure as president of baseball operations. Now, Buster Posey, future Hall of Famer, champion with the Giants, MVP, batting title, a lot of great things. He did not need to take this role on. But I love how aggressive he's been. When the Giants were in it and Rafael Devers was dangled out there, he said, I don't care about the money. Let's go get a championship kind of bat added to this lineup. Power that we don't possess currently. That was a huge move. Then the team doesn't respond. It gets towards the trade deadline. You don't fool yourself into pushing forward. You sell some pieces and refresh the farm system, add some pieces that'll help you in the next couple years. I expect them to spend this offseason to add to this team, and bringing in someone that has developed a bunch of major league talent, or at least minor league talent. A lot of Vols got drafted this year and last year and the year before. Vitello is going to get a real opportunity here to make Buster Posey look like the smartest president of baseball operations in the game. If he can help turn this team around, and maybe he's the culture infusion that they need to play winning brand baseball in San Francisco. Again, those fans deserve it. There's plenty of talent on the team and people that care at the helm. I wish them nothing but the best, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. Let me know in the comments below who you got winning this World Series, who you got winning World Series MVP. I forgot to mention that. If Shohei Ohtani can do 60% of what he did in Game 4 on the mound and with the bat in the same game, I think he will, just like he won NLCS MVP, he will win World Series MVP for the first time in his future Hall of Fame career. But I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to check out this episode. whether you're watching it before the World Series starts, whether you're watching it a couple games into the World Series when you're just waiting and want more baseball content. Appreciate you for spending all season with me. Make sure that you like the video, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those great things. I have some great stuff planned for the off season and for 2026. But we have one more series of baseball. Savor every single pitch. I love y'all, and I'll see you in the next one.